morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains of the Lecky mansion, lighting up the marble floors in the silver-framed photo of Daniel and Melissa Craig. Daniel, a quiet billionaire with salt and pepper hair and a calm demeanor, adjusted his Rolex watch and prepared to step out. He was late for a critical investor meeting, and every minute counted. Just as he reached for the door, a voice trembled behind him. "Sir, please, don't leave this house today." Daniel paused mid-step. In front of him, kneeling on the cold tiles, was Grace, the young maid no one ever noticed. Her face was pale, her hands joined in pleading, and her eyes shimmered with genuine fear. "I had a dream," she whispered. "You were wearing this exact outfit. You got into your car, and you didn't come back. There was blood. So much blood." He blinked. The air seemed to shift, growing heavier. Grace wasn't dramatic. She never joked, and now her voice was shaking like a radio tuned to a distant frequency. Melissa's heels clicked down the staircase as she emerged in a robe and a smirk. "What's this nonsense again?" she said coldly. "Daniel, you're really listening to this girl's village dreams?" Daniel stared at Grace, her words clinging to his chest like a shadow. Something inside him stirred a quiet alarm that didn't feel imaginary. Slowly, he stepped back from the door, dropped his keys on the center table, and sank into the sofa. "I'm not going," he said flatly. Melissa's jaw dropped. "You're letting the maid decide your schedule now?" But Daniel said nothing. In that moment, the silence was more honest than anything words could explain. Daniel Craig wasn't a celebrity billionaire. He didn't flaunt wealth or throw parties on yachts. Yet in Nigeria's real estate elite, his name was legend. Co-founder of Pinnacle Heights, a premium development firm based in Lagos, he built an empire with his best friend and partner, Tony Adenuga. Tony was flamboyant and charming. Daniel, measured and deeply introspective. Together they made billions. Together they were unstoppable, or so Daniel believed. At home he lived a different lie. His wife, Melissa, was all grace and glam. Their love had once been real, budding in a boutique furniture store in Victoria Island. But love had withered, replaced by cold politeness and shared silence. Melissa no longer cooked. She fired house staff like it was a hobby. "She walks like a hawker," she once complained of a maid. "Her smell gives me headaches." By the time Grace arrived, 6 others had come and gone in under a year. But Grace was different. She didn't gossip. She didn't even speak unless spoken to. She swept and cleaned with the quiet precision of someone who carried pain too deep to explain. Melissa hated her from the start, but Daniel noticed something else: order. Peace. Quiet competence. One night, Melissa reluctantly admitted, "At least she's better than the last ones." It was the highest compliment she had ever paid. Daniel found himself relaxing more, eating warm food again, walking into a clean home without complaints. Grace never demanded attention, yet her presence calmed the chaos. But what Daniel didn't realize was that Grace wasn't just there to clean floors. She was sent to change his fate. Daniel sat in his living room, heart pounding. He should have been at that meeting. By now, contracts would be signed, press photos taken. Instead, he sat on the sofa, haunted by Grace's words. His phone vibrated again. Tony. He picked up. "Dan, where are you, man? The investors are furious. I couldn't make it." "You cancel? Bro, this deal was gold." Daniel closed his eyes. Before he could answer, another call beeped in his secretary. "Sir," her voice trembled, "your driver, he's been in an accident. 3rd Mainland Bridge, a truck. It hit the Lexus you usually use. It flipped multiple times. We thought you were inside." Daniel's hand dropped the phone. The same outfit, the same time, the same road. He could barely breathe. Melissa entered the room, unmoved. "So you've been home all day sulking?" "There was an accident," Daniel said. "My car. Sean's in the hospital." She blinked, emotionless. "But you're fine, right?" He turned slowly toward her. "You're not even shaken. Accidents happen in Lagos every hour, Daniel. Don't make this dramatic." That's when he decided. "I'm keeping her." "Who?" "Grace." Melissa's nostrils flared. "She caused this mess. She saved my life." She stormed off. Daniel sat still, overwhelmed. Grace's warning had come true, but now he didn't just suspect fate. He smelled betrayal. Something was wrong. The silence in the mansion grew heavier with each passing day. Daniel wasn't the same man anymore. He no longer trusted laughter or promises that came too easily. Melissa moved through the house like a model on a runway, always poised, always guarded. But Daniel watched her now, not out of love but calculation. Every gesture, every shift in her voice felt like a signal. The trust he once offered blindly had turned to suspicion. One evening, while Melissa stepped out to take a call, Grace entered the dining room quietly, clearing the plates as she usually did. Daniel barely glanced at her until she bent slightly and whispered, "Sir, please don't sign any documents this week." He turned, puzzled. She added, "I had another dream. This one was worse. You signed something and then everything fell apart. Your company, frozen, police, jail. Sir, you were handcuffed." Her voice trembled. Daniel sat back, stunned. Before he could ask more, Melissa returned, her perfume filling the room like smoke after a fire. Grace slipped away with the tray, but her words didn't slip with her. They stayed with Daniel, haunting every thought. 2 days later, Tony visited with a fat file in hand and his signature cologne in the air. "This is it, bro," he said. "The Dubai deal. Sign and we're set for life." Daniel took the folder, smiled, and said, "I'll review it." But when he opened it that night, something stank. Numbers didn't match. The receiving account was unfamiliar. Grace's voice echoed again. "You may end up in jail for something you didn't even do." Daniel didn't sign. He locked the file away and quietly he began an investigation. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for Daniel's private audit to confirm the betrayal. Millions had been siphoned. Tony Adenuga, his brother in business, his best man, his children's godfather, had been draining Pinnacle Heights into offshore accounts, masked under shell project names. It wasn't just theft, it was betrayal, layered in lies. But Daniel didn't confront him yet. He wanted to be sure. He wanted the truth whole and raw. At home, tension had reached its peak. Melissa barely hid her irritation. She complained about Grace more each day. "She's too confident," she snapped one morning. "She looks at me like she knows my secrets." Daniel didn't flinch. Maybe she does. That night, Melissa paced the guest room, phone to her ear. "Tony, I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "She's ruining everything. You told me if I married him, we'd find a way into the company. You said the rest would be easy." Tony's voice came through low. "It still is. We're almost there." "We're not. Every plan fails. Every time we try something, he changes course. Because of her. That girl knows. She senses it." Tony sighed. "Maybe it's time we take her out of the picture." Melissa went quiet. "Then do it, before she ruins us both." In a room down the hall, Grace knelt by her window, hands clasped in prayer. She had seen this part in a dream too. Saturday came slowly, wrapped in heat and silence. Daniel sat on the balcony, skimming through audit reports when Melissa walked into the living room in a travel outfit and light scarf. "I'm going to Abeokuta," she said casually. "Dad's sick. I'll be back Monday." Daniel nodded, eyes still on his screen. "Okay." She waited for more. A question, a touch, a farewell. Nothing came. She left at 7:15 a.m., her smile tight and fake. But Daniel had already placed a call. "Follow her, quietly. I want updates, not interference." At 9:03 a.m., the first update came. She hadn't gone to Abeokuta. She checked into a boutique hotel in Victoria Island room 406, under the name Tolu Ogun Lady. By 9:47 a.m., Tony arrived, cap low, sunglasses on. He didn't check in. He went straight to her room. Daniel stared at the photos, Melissa in a robe, Tony shirtless on the couch. By 6:20 p.m., Daniel arrived. No guards, no drama, just silence and a loaded keycard. The receptionist tried to stop him. A crisp wad of Naira changed her mind. He didn't knock. He opened the door, and there they were, caught like teenagers in a stolen moment. Melissa's wine glass trembled in her hand. Tony stood too fast. Daniel said nothing. He looked at them like one would at spoiled fruit familiar, once cherished, now rotten. "Don't lie," he said softly. "Not here." Melissa whispered, "I can explain." "You don't have to." He turned and left. Daniel didn't weep. He didn't scream. He went home, walked into his office and made 2 calls, one to his lawyer, the other to the board. "Prepare divorce papers and begin the process to buy out Tony's shares." The lawyer said nothing. The accountant said even less. But the message was clear. Daniel Craig was done playing blind. The mansion was colder now. Melissa didn't return. She sent her lawyer instead. "She agrees to everything," the lawyer said. "Just wants peace." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Peace? After plotting murder and theft? She wants peace?" He signed the papers anyway. No hesitation. Betrayal had carved out the part of him that once cared. Grace continued her work like nothing had changed. She still folded sheets with care, still swept the same corners, still served meals Daniel barely touched. One night she entered the living room without knocking. "I'm leaving tomorrow," she said quietly. Daniel looked up from the couch. "Why?" His voice cracked. "You're the only one who didn't hurt me." "I wasn't sent to stay," she said. "I was sent to save." Daniel rose slowly. "You saved me. Twice." Grace looked at him with soft eyes. "Then live. Start again. Love carefully. Trust slowly. Watch everyone." She turned toward the door. He wanted to stop her, but he didn't. Some angels come only once. It took a year for Daniel to rebuild. He didn't run back to love or revenge. He focused on cleaning house. Pinnacle Heights underwent a transformation. Corrupt executives were fired. Systems were reinforced. He launched a new branch in Abuja and set up scholarships for youth from underserved communities. The man who once built empires with the wrong people was now building them with the right ones. And slowly life returned. He began walking again, reading again, even laughing, not the rehearsed kind, but real belly-deep laughter. The mansion began to feel less like a coffin and more like a home. He removed every photo of Melissa, repainted the room she once controlled. And when he smiled now, it came from somewhere real. Love came again, but not loudly. At a charity auction, he met Efema, a literature professor who couldn't care less about his net worth. She loved poetry, orphanages, and the quiet power of truth. Their connection grew like a tree, slow, strong, and silent. One evening, under a soft Harmattan sky, he held her hand and knew, this time it was real. Somewhere across Lagos, in a small compound with cracked walls and tired paint, a man was on the brink of ruin. His marriage was falling apart. His wife, Ngozi, suspected he was having an affair with his secretary. He denied it, of course, but his eyes, his late nights, his sudden distance told another story. Ngozi sat at the edge of her bed, tears threatening to spill. That was when the doorbell rang. A soft knock. When she opened the door, she saw a young woman with a calm face wearing a plain gown and flat slippers. "Are you the lawyer?" Ngozi asked. "No," the woman replied. "I'm the maid." Grace stepped into that home like light through a broken window. Grace moved through the new home with the same silent discipline. She didn't meddle. She observed. Within days, she saw the cracked silent dinners, angry texts, lingering perfume that didn't belong to the wife. She waited. She prayed. And when the time came, she warned again. "Don't sign that promotion document, sir," she told the husband one morning. "The position comes with a price you didn't see." He laughed. "Are you a prophet now?" She smiled. "No, just someone who sees what others ignore." The wife, Ngozi, watched Grace with curiosity. "Who are you really?" she asked one night. Grace paused. "Someone who listens when no one else does. Someone who sees beyond words. Someone who was sent to save." And once again, in a home on the edge of breaking, truth began to rise. The end. What did you think of this story? Was Grace truly sent by fate, or do you believe people like her still exist in our world today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Would you have reacted like Daniel or walked away sooner? If this story touched you or made you reflect, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful, emotional, and inspiring stories like this. Your opinion matters, and your support helps us bring more stories to life. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay wise, stay watchful, and never ignore the quiet ones.